send Derek to Kondengi for wearing a t-shirt in your presence. Yes.
Derek is safe.
No, the good thing is that nobody on this call has spoken pidgin, because that one would have been, even me myself, I would have sent them to prison on your behalf.
Are we not having Randa joining us?
Randa, he's probably on his. He told me he has a challenge. He had to travel to Douala, back to Douala today. Yeah, so he's probably still on his way. Yeah, so if he reaches, he'll join us. But notwithstanding, we can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a minute to adjust the height of my laptop.
Right.
Okay, when we are live, you just let me know so that I'll start making my noise.
Yeah, we are live. You can go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and wherever you're watching around the globe, you're very much welcome to another series of the Career Development, hosted by Bestech. I'm Daniel Derrick, and I'll be your host this day. So on this platform, we have a number of great persons that will be sharing insights, a lot of insights with us this evening. So we have Bensi Bomto. Bensi Bomto, permit me at the PhD at the back. You deserve it. It's all yours. Okay, it's not an easy thing to have a PhD joining us this evening. So Bensi Bomto has a very brilliant parcours from industry to academia, and maybe he's planning to go back to industry. I don't know. He's going to be telling us all of that during this program. And just beside him also, we have a wonderful man, Mika Edwin. Mika Edwin has a lot on his plate right now. Okay. I was just browsing on his LinkedIn profile to have a glance of what he's been into, and I was not shocked. Okay, because he's always been a hardworking person. And you sit there right there, you have so much to learn. Mika equally has moved from industry to academia, and he's exploring a new parcours that I hope he's going to share with us this evening. And obviously, we have with us another engineer who has been moving also between academia and engineering. No other person than the founder of Bestech, Nelson Achelengwa. And definitely, there is going to be a lot of wisdom flowing this evening. So wherever you are, stay put. Take a rest, take a comfortable position. Okay, and be attentive because many things are going to be shared this evening, and you don't want to miss any of it. Okay, so I just want you to introduce yourself in the number of minutes you want. Okay, there is a lot on your plate, there is a lot on your profile, okay, and you might want to select some few of it, the ones that you think might be relevant to this talk of today. I'll start with Dr. Bensi Bomto. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself as we dive into this program.
Okay, my name is Bemsi Bum, but everybody calls me Bemsi. That's the short form of my name. I currently work.
We can call you Bemsi during this program.
Yes, please. So currently, I work at the University of Cambridge. I'm a research associate at the University of Cambridge. But prior to that, I worked. Well, I was a PhD student at Herod War University in Edinburgh, where I did a PhD in high probability theory. Prior to that, I was a research assistant at the Master Institute in Abu Dhabi. But I did my undergraduate in Cameroon at what's commonly known as Polytech. It's the National Advanced School of Engineering. And I studied civil engineering. In between, I've done some work as a geotechnical engineer. In between my academic path, I've done some work as a geotechnical engineer, and I've also done bits and bobs of consulting in engineering, data science, and I've had a stint as well as a management consultant. So, I think that's a bit of a background about myself.
That's great. Thank you very much. What does a research associate do? You mentioned you're a research associate at the University of Cambridge, a big university for that matter. What does a research associate do basically?
So I work with what's called the biostatistics unit, and my research at the moment is developing machine learning methods to identify what are called multimorbidities. So multi-morbidities are multiple long-term conditions, right? So people who are living with multiple long-term conditions, like maybe diabetes and high blood pressure, for example. And there's two strands to it, to the kind of work that's being done. There's one which is at the public health level, where you're looking at demographic factors that can predict or that affect the prevalence of multi-morbidities. But there's one which is at the molecular level, right? You're looking at how the genomes and the genetic factors that predispose a person to being, suffering from multi-morbidities at some point in their lives. And so what we're doing is that we're looking through lots of genetic data and also lots of electronic health records. And what we're trying to do is identify patterns in that kind of data and see whether there's any correlation between that kind of data and the presence of multi-morbidities. And so what I'm doing is developing the methods that will help in achieving those goals, right? So there's a lot of probabilistic machine learning, a lot of statistical analysis of that kind of data. And so on a day-to-day basis, I move between the theory of things, understanding how the data itself, the structure of the data, the size of the data, and things like that, the practice, and how we can, what methods give us the best insight about the data. And then the practice of it, obviously, as writing code, writing software that will translate that theory into practice and that will give us results. And then also there's the communication part of it, right? When you have findings, you have to be able to communicate what it is that what methods you used, what results that you had, and what that means for people who are living in Great Britain today. So I think that's kind of a good overview of what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Well, that sounds really huge, and I'll come back to it definitely to ask about the relationship with engineering. Okay, so we can prepare already in that direction. But let's hear a little bit from Mika. Mika, you're doing okay. Let me call you Mika throughout this conversation. Okay, so Mika, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Okay, want to know you. Let viewers know it's intervening today. So Mika, please.
All right. Thank you, Derek. It's a pleasure to be here on this program with Bestech to share my thoughts about engineering or careers in engineering. So I'm Mika Edwin. Just like though I did most of my schooling or my education in Cameroon, obtained my diplôme d'ingénieur or my undergraduate engineering degree from École Polytechnique Yaoundé. Spent a little bit of time in industry, not much, in the oil and gas, then later to FMCGs, fast moving consumer goods, then returned back again to oil and gas, this time more on projects. And then I decided to go back to school. So I just completed a master's in advanced mechanical engineering from Harold White University in the UK. While my program was more of a salad of courses, I would say, my research was focused more on, my dissertation was focused on, looking at 4D bandages and how we can improve on wound healing. So understanding the mechanics of wounds and how we can design bandages that can actually reduce, the occurrence of keloids and hypertrophic scars and improve on the quality of wounds. So it's a little bit more surgery or biomedical engineering. No, I would say, yeah, biomedical engineering, but there is an interesting mechanical aspect to that. Currently, I recently just, started working for GlaxoSmithKline, where I'm very keen on, putting together science and technology to improve on quality of lives of people. So I work for the vaccine initiative.
Wow, that's a huge one, and I'm sure there is a lot of stuff that has gone through the mind of our viewers at the moment. I want to give them a break at this moment. So if you're watching us, feel free to subscribe. Okay, it's YouTube. There's a button just right down there. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to like. And why not share with your friends that maybe plan to join us and don't know what is happening right now? And feel free to comment on anything that is being said at the right here. And also, you are permitted to ask questions. So in the comment sections of the YouTube channel, you can type in your question, and I bet you we are going to be watching, we are going to be looking at it so that we can ask our viewers, those intervening this afternoon, okay, this evening, they are going to answer your questions and give you insight in those things that you might want to know about. Okay, so coming back to our guests, we have a lot of stuff here. We have a guest that has worked very much into in the area of oil and gas. Okay, though he's doing something not too far. Okay, still engineering. And we have a guest that is into data science. Okay, machine learning. Okay, and they say data is the new oil. Okay, so I can say we basically have two oil people in the in our program today. So I want to ask a question. I want to ask a question to our first guest, Mr. Bensi Bomto. Okay, so you mentioned geotechnics, and right now you are telling us about biostatistics. What's the link? Is there any link? Is it a usual parkour? Is it something that people do? And how did you find yourself in that parkour?
I have to admit it's not the most typical career path that you hear if you were, if you lived in Cameroon your whole life, right? Most people tend to choose a field of engineering and then stay with it. But when I worked as a research assistant at the Master Institute in Abu Dhabi, what I was working on, the project that I was working on at the time was we were trying to reconstruct. So at the time, the city council wanted to build a metro in the city. But if you have ever lived in the Middle East or in that area of the world, you know that there's a lot of construction that's going on there. But they're also very close, it's very coastal. And so what usually happens when you're doing a lot of construction, a lot of that very intensive construction in those places is that the level of the water table varies a lot. Okay, and so you have a lot of seepage in the soil. And one of the troubles that they had in that place is that they had a layer of the soil that was made of a material called gypsum, right? And so when you have a lot of water, gypsum is soluble in water. And so if you have a lot of water moving, there is a risk that it may dissolve that layer of gypsum. And you do not know what would happen, right? You do not know how thick the layer of soil is, whether it means that if you put a building on it, it's just going to subside a little bit or it's going to collapse. And so what I had to do at the time was collect borehole data from different soil profiles and then reconstruct like a model of the soil and then run a few simulations, right? To see if you place a certain load on the soil, given all the conditions that were there, what was the reaction going to be? And so that's a civil engineering problem, right? That's a geotechnical engineering problem. You're trying to see how you're going to set the foundations, how you're going to construct buildings at a particular place. But what I was doing all that time was statistical modeling, because all you're doing is like you're calculating probabilities, right? You're saying if this amount of water flows through the soil at this, what's the probability that water is going to flow through this place? If it flows there, what's the probability that it's going to dissolve this gypsum? If it dissolves the gypsum, how much of it is going to dissolve? If you place a load on it, what's the probability that it's going to collapse? So you're just basically doing a lot of probability and statistics. And so that was a turning point really in my career, both academic and professional, where I shifted from focusing more on like traditional engineering problems to looking at things from a more statistical point of view. So I would say that what I'm doing now is quite far from the civil engineering that I started with, but that there was kind of an intermediary. There was a point where I was working on a civil engineering problem, and then I realized that there was actually a lot of statistical background that I needed, and that the problems actually working on statistical problems was actually quite interesting, and that's where I made the switch.
Oh, that's a great story to tell, and I'm sure you told that someday to your kids and all of that, and they'll be very excited.
Depends if they're interested in engineering, why not?
Okay. That was just to give us a break on the introductions and telling us about themselves and all of that. And obviously, I know Nelson is not here as a guest, okay, but he's He's an engineer with a lot of experience as well. And obviously, I think we should have him introduce himself or reintroduce himself as a founder of Bestech, okay, and as an engineer, okay, in this panel, who is basically here for the control of things and coordination of stuff, okay. We want his input also in this activity. So, Nelson, please, kindly introduce yourself to us, tell us what you're into, and all of that. So, please, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Nganyu Derek, for for that for that yeah, for that nice intro. Okay, so my name is Nelson Achelengwa, and as he mentioned, yes, I'm the founder and CEO of Bestech. But previously,
We have a CEO in our midst this evening, please. Some standing ovation is not an easy thing.
Yeah, but before that, before that, I was trained as an engineer, a telecommunications engineer in Polytechnique Yaoundé. That was like of course, like every other person here, that was like the greatest part of my educational background. And from there, I went to industry. I worked for about for a couple of, I think, 2 to 3 years. And then that's when I moved to the US to do a master's program in IT. Actually, it's a business-oriented program. And it is from there that I, came up with this vision of starting this initiative. Basically, the mission of Bestech is to educate and inspire youths to pursue their dreams. The whole idea about this is to complement, the educational system back home in Cameroon. There are certain things that are not necessarily taught in school. Things like life skills, leadership, communication, teamwork, business. Okay, those are things that to succeed as a professional, you need those soft skills or life skills. Okay, and they're not necessarily taught in school. So the whole idea about this is to complement the educational system, okay, in Cameroon, and to help the youths, give them those tools and the valuable information that they need to be able to succeed as professionals. And that is also that's also like why we are here for this career development series. And I want to use this opportunity again to thank our expert guests here who willingly decided to join us today. Willingly decided to sacrifice their time, to be here with us today to share, their experience and their knowledge. I believe that all of that will be very valuable, to the young ones out there who aspire, to have prestigious careers such as these. Thank you.
CEOs have a way of ending their talks. Okay, there is this vote of thanks that is given to the invitees and all of that. And that was a CEO talking, and and if you doubted that he was a CEO, you should have your confirmation from that. That exit he gave, that outro he just poured out. Okay, so Mika, I would like to ask you this question: who is an engineer according to you? Who is an engineer?
Well, that's kind of a little bit difficult, but I'll give you my own point of view of what engineering is about. And I would simply say an engineer is someone who uses science to, I would say, design, to invent, to manufacture, to test, and probably to maintain anything from machines through systems, through complex, systems, gadgets, and whatever, communication systems, with an objective of solving a very specific problem. So that's what engineering is to me. If you use science and technology to invent something, to create, to test, to keep in a certain state or improved state, then you're an engineer. But more recently, having spent a bit of time in industry, I would say I'll modify that definition to be more like someone who tries to optimize everything the person comes across. So one thing about an engineer is always looking for the easiest way to do whatever thing that you're asked to do, looking for the cheapest way to do whatever you're trying to do, looking for the leanest means where you waste the minimum you can in every venture that you're involved in. That's what engineering to me.
Okay, okay, that's very different from the definition I know of an engineer. Okay, I know an engineer. The definition I have as for an engineer is someone who spends his time studying complex equations in physics and maths and ends up using Excel to do all of his tasks and all of that. so, so Dr. Dempsey, can you tell us is that true about an engineer?
Well, I mean, it's true in some ways, but that doesn't mean that that's what an engineer is, right? I think that
Okay.
there's a lot of engineering work which can be done on a spreadsheet, but that doesn't mean that that's what an engineer is. I think I tend to agree more with what Edwin said, like that. As an engineer, a lot of what you're doing is finding ways to use scientific principles to design and maintain systems that improve people's lives. And those could be transportation systems, could be electrical systems, could be computer systems. But the commonality is just that you're trying to you're manipulating the physical world around you in some way to make people's lives a bit easier. And that means that you have to understand the physical world, right? So you use things like mathematics and physics, but it's not, uh, and maybe Excel as well, but I won't put it as crudely as you did.
Okay, thank you. And how long is the training to become an engineer? I think we should answer these questions in the light of Cameroon because a majority of our viewers right here are Cameroonians, are from Cameroon. Okay, so how long is the training to become an engineer? Mika, you could answer that question for us, please.
Well, it's a pretty direct question. So I would say that if you're studying in the well, as a Cameroonian, they understand that Cameroonian educational system has two parallel systems that run together. So there is the French and the English system of education. So if you're studying in the English system of education, then it takes 4 years for you to become an engineer. That's to obtain a bachelor's of engineering or a bachelor's of science engineering. 4 years. And for the French system, unfortunately, you can only do that in multiples of a diplôme d'ingénieur and then others. So a diplôme d'ingénieur would be some kind of an equivalence of a master's of engineering in the English system, which takes about 5 years. So generally, if you intend studying an engineering discipline up to, let's say, not to the level of an engineer, I would say, then you want to secure at least 4 years post high school for your training, at least. Yeah.
Okay, maybe since you mentioned high school, I just want to let you continue from there. The subjects that are required. Okay, people just had their GC and a good number of us are watching us this evening. What are those subjects that I need to become an engineer? Okay, maybe you take us from the ordinary level if you have to. Okay, then to the advanced level. What are those subjects that someone needs to become an engineer in Cameroon, for example?
Okay. So I really like the fact that you precised in Cameroon. So most of my answers will really be coined to the situation in Cameroon because if you want to look outside Cameroon, especially in the developed world, there is a little bit more flexibility when it comes to what you can actually do based on the subjects that you sign up for. So if you were in Cameroon, I would say that most of the classical engineering disciplines, so by the classical engineering disciplines, I'm talking of electrical, civil, mechanical, telecommunications, computer engineering, you would need to be a science inclined student per se. So the courses that will be expected of you could really span across a number of subjects, but the common denominator, as Dr. Bemsibom mentioned earlier, that engineering is all about, manipulating, the environment around you or the world around you, and understanding that world becomes a prerequisite. And the way we manipulate that is engineers speak a language called mathematics because it's the easiest way. You can modelize things. You can, represent the world in a manner in which we can easily understand using the language of mathematics. And then physics is really just understanding how things are the way they are, or how the function or the way they interact with each other. So I would highly recommend that for students who are trying to, or who have the intentions of studying for some engineering discipline, from ordinary level, they want to start looking at more of the science subjects. So the physics, the mathematics, the chemistry, it's also very important because it's like the common denominator to do the sciences in Cameroon. In high school, you follow that same, you pursue that same, journey. And yeah, so frankly, I would say mathematics and physics are those two subjects that you don't want to avoid. Of course, there are some engineering disciplines that will require you to do geology, but you realize that even those who are doing stuff related to geology, like they're doing geosciences and maybe reservoir engineering, which is really oil and gas specific, you realize that someone without geology, but who has good scores in maths and physics, still get accepted into those programs. So maths and physics are really what can offer you that flexibility in terms of any engineering discipline of your choice.
Okay, thank you very much. That was quite insightful. And Bensi, you've been an engineer for 7 years plus, if I got it right.
Mhm.
Okay, that's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm sure with that you've been able to identify those common bases, those things that you think an engineer should have. Okay, so what university courses, okay, for you do you think an engineer should take? Okay, if we had that option in Cameroon where you select some courses, that will better prepare you for engineering. What are those courses? You can name one, two, three that you think every engineering student should take. Okay, and if you happen to be in an engineering school that doesn't offer that course, okay, it will help them. It will help them to prepare for that and maybe look for ways to get it done online. So, what are those courses that you think are kind of fundamental for an engineer in the 21st century?
Well, from where I'm sitting now, I think that the most useful course would be uh, the most useful courses would be heavy on computer science because there's a lot of engineering work now requires you to be able to program computers at some in some capacity, and so I would say that while it's kind of difficult for me to think about there are obviously it's kind of difficult for me to think about courses that will be universal to all engineering disciplines, right? I think like basic courses in calculus and things like that will help you because
Okay.
most of the theory in engineering relies on understanding certain things about differentials and integrals and things like that. But in terms of what is going to help you in practice, my point of view is that all engineers should uh, become power users of computers, really, that they should be able to program computers proficiently. They should understand how computers work. And, whether it is that you're going for more traditional engineering disciplines like civil engineering and mechanical engineering, or you're going more towards, more cutting edge things, like advanced computer science. But most applications of engineering will require you to be able to use computers pretty decently. And so I think that uh, programming courses, you know, maybe one scripted language like Python and then a lower level language like C, C++, I would say are useful skills to have for any engineer.
Yeah, that's quite right. I remember as an early engineer, okay, I just left from school. Okay, I've done telecommunications engineering, and I didn't think I would encounter a lot of computer. Okay, I think I will be seeing a lot of telecoms equipment
Mhm.
and all of that. Maybe going to the field, having to touch these equipment. But when I got to work, I realized that everything was done remotely. Okay, the
Mhm.
equipment that you have to work on, okay, they're installed somewhere in the labo. Okay, and all you need to do is connect on your PC and you log into the computer, the equipment, okay, and you physically have to type in some commands which are like codes, and you perform actions on those equipments that are far off that way. Okay, and even at that, I realized that the Excel skills that every other person has in the company are not the Excel skills that an engineer should have. Okay, as an engineer, you should not just be at the level of an Excel. Okay, you should be able to write macros in Excel so that you can automate those tasks and do them better than
Mhm.
your peers who, for example, did ads. Okay, you should not be doing the same thing every week. You have a weekly report to prepare on Excel, and every time you come, you have to do mouse clicks and all of that, mouse clicks and all of that. As an engineer, okay, with the basis of computer science, okay, you're able to write a macro that will permit you to do a single click, and you have things running in the background for you, and the results are presented that way. So I think computer science is a basic field. It's a
Mhm.
basic skill for every engineer to have. Okay, and I'll get back to you, Dempsey, with your 7 extensive years of engineering practice. Okay, what are the most and least, the things you enjoy most and least about engineering?
Uh, because I haven't had a very stereotypical engineering career, right? I've kind of moved around domains a bit. So I've kind of had the experience of doing a lot of work in like civil engineering, some computer science, a bit of telecommunications as well. Um, so maybe my answer is not going to be particularly representative of other people's experience. But what I've enjoyed the most about it is just giving me a lot of opportunity to uh, understand different things about the world, really. Understand the way buildings are constructed, different, processes, just a deeper understanding of the physical world, really. Um, and so it's satisfied a lot of my curiosity about different things. I think that was one of the biggest drivers for me doing engineering, and also just working with different engineers, see how creative some people can get when faced with certain problems, and that there are many things that you wouldn't have. There's just you're exposed to very different ways of thinking, and that has been those are the main benefits for me. I cannot really think about anything that has frustrated me very much about engineering. Uh, I really, I cannot really think about anything that has made me particularly frustrated about engineering as a career choice. I think that if I were to go back to high school again, I'd probably still study engineering. I, yeah, I can't think about anything about engineering that. I mean, every job has days in which you're a bit slower, or that you're doing a bit of repetitive work. I think that that's you know part of everything that you do. But about things that I find particularly frustrating, I don't have anything that I can point to really.
Okay, thank you very much. That was quite a parkour. Well. I guess we will have some more in that direction. Okay, but I want us to address at this moment some people who just had the advanced level, okay,
Mhm.
and who might be considering a career in engineering. So, Mika, what's the various schools offering engineering in Cameroon? Okay, and you can, as you are a volunteer, a mentor at Open Dreams, and I particularly like what Open Dreams is doing right now. Is giving advanced level students a kind of global mindset. Okay, it's making them to think beyond Cameroon. Okay, so you might use this opportunity also to enlighten us a little bit about not just opportunities in Cameroon, okay, but the opportunities that you could get maybe with mentoring from Open Dreams and any other organization that does a similar thing. Please go ahead, Mika.
Okay, so with the permission of Nelson, without publicity for Open Dreams or any other organization I'll be, mentioning here, is just for the purpose of providing your viewers with more information as to where they could get the support that they actually need. So congratulations to all those that have been successful, all those who made it at the GC Advanced level 2020. Um, Special congrats because 2020 has been a very unique and particular year in every single aspect you could think of. And it just
GC
shows
Lockdown Edition.
it's really the GC lockdown edition. It just shows, I mean, it's evidence of the resilience that every single candidate would have shown of during that period. And engineering needs people like that, people who are resilient, because to be frank, while practicing engineering can be really fun, engineering school can sometimes not be totally a bed of roses, to be candid about it. So in Cameroon, I cannot pretend that I can list all the schools offering engineering programs in Cameroon. Firstly, because some of them offer just very specific or a very limited number of programs. So I want to focus on first the public institutions, reason being that they are more affordable for the majority or the vast majority of Cameroonians who probably cannot always, churn out 1 million and above to attend, the very private universities, firstly. So I'll focus on the government schools. And secondly, because um, most of them offer a wide array of, engineering disciplines. Of course, I'll start with École Polytechnique, École Nationale Supérieure Polytechnique Yaoundé, one of the oldest, I don't want to say one of the oldest.
I see a proud smile on everybody's face right now.
Of course, I think Polytech Yaoundé has a track record of training I would say, one of the most performant and the most well-placed engineers in Cameroon. There is just no measure. The results and the fruits of Polytechnic speak for themselves. So there is really no publicity to do for Polytech Yaoundé, which offers, I think, just 2 years ago until I left, it was 6 different disciplines: mechanical, civil, and urbanization, computer, telecommunications, electrical, and industrial. Recently, I learned of the introduction of les arts numériques, and another one, I think
Meteorological
meteorology, exactly, which is in itself a very interesting, field. You think of the School of Post and Telecommunications in Yaoundé, which is now SUPTIC. I think after being restructured, you think of the School of École Nationale Supérieure de Travaux Publics. As its name says, I would say, okay, if you're thinking about urbanization, town planning, civil engineering, so by civil engineering, I think maybe Dr. Cole will know the different aspects, whether it's over there's UVADA and then building construction. Maybe that could really be a good place for you if you're really civil engineering, urbanization, and town planning focused. Then that could be the destination. There is also now École Nationale Supérieure. Well, I'm angry, so I'll call it FGI. I'll still call it FGI, which is ENSP Douala. There is ENSP of Marwa. There is Ensai of Ngaoundé, which is a school of, I think it mostly focuses on process engineers and industrial engineers, actually. There
Yeah.
is the School of Agriculture in Chan, commonly called FASA. And so there is really a wide array of those schools. What I would recommend is through Model Initiative of Africa, MIA, maybe if you can contact us across our social media pages, we'll share with you a document that has a summary of the different schools and the different programs offered, the requirements, and how admissions and enrollments into these schools are done. Now, looking at what we do at Open Dreams really just focuses on, as Eric said, helping young Cameroonians, particularly high-achieving and low-income Cameroonians, to look beyond just the opportunities that they have in Cameroon. I would say there are interesting schools in Cameroon, but there is no doubt that if you get enrolled at MIT, it's a better catch for you. So what we're trying to do is find young Cameroonians who otherwise, without scholarships, cannot afford to finance education in maybe the US, maybe Ghana, maybe the United Kingdom, help them through a mentorship program, which classically runs for 2 months. They are taught about the systems of education in other countries. We help them to prepare for standardized tests like the SAT and the TOEFL. They are attributed a mentor who kind of follows them over, their application journey, reviews their essays, provides guidance on how to select the schools, what information they should know, give them the opportunity to volunteer and to build a profile that can make them pretty, to be a force to reckon with. Because if you're applying to, for instance, the University of Edinburgh, which is among the top 30 global universities, you understand that securing a seat there can be very competitive. So it's not just about your results, your academic results, but it's also about how involved are you in community, because most of those schools, they want people who are not just, academic focused, but who are aware of their environment and are taking positive, actions to improve on the life of other people in the communities where they live in. So that's really a very long dissertation on the different opportunities that are available and how Open Dreams can actually, help you to be able to secure opportunities internationally.
Well, that was a great one. I think it basically summarizes that there are opportunities in Cameroon, okay, and it also adds that the opportunities don't end in Cameroon. You are permitted. It's valid to think beyond Cameroon, okay. It's valid to think beyond Cameroon. You might not just want to remain. Permit me use the word local champion. Maybe you're thinking bigger. You're thinking beyond Cameroon, and it's not too early to start thinking beyond Cameroon. Okay, you can start thinking beyond Cameroon at the level of the advanced level, and you can always have people to guide you in that. And Bestech is also one of them. Okay, Bestech can guide you in that. Bestech could pull a good number of engineers today. Okay, if they could do that, they could do a lot more. And they've been pulling people from different career domains to talk on a similar platform like this one. So Bestech can also do that to you. So you can also scroll through the page of Bestech and look at our contacts, okay, and get to us, and we'll be able to return return to you with a message or a call or any other means that you might prefer. Okay, so you just moved students, nouveau bachelier, as we call them in Cameroon, from you gave them the opportunities that are present in doing engineering. Okay, so right now I want you to get into engineering school. I will start with Nelson. Okay, so Nelson, uh, tell us about your personal experience as an engineering student. Okay, what was your personal experience? What was the challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Well. That's always an interesting story to tell. And it's a similar story to that of my peers. All right. When you just graduate from high school with these excellent results, and you you get into a new system of education, which is completely different. Okay, that was my experience. And as we often say, okay, it is a humbling experience. Yeah. So yeah, Yeah, so I mean, just right from the beginning, you immediately realize that this is a new, that you are treading on new soil, and definitely you need to do things differently. Okay, if you want to succeed. The most challenging part for me going through Polytech was definitely the beginning, the first semester of my first year. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, the first. I remember receiving my first test results. That was in Algebra General. Yeah, and I think yeah, that was yeah, I had what I have. My score was like about 5 on 20. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was yeah.
Are you not sure it was 5 on 10?
Yeah, that was quite a painful experience, to say the least. It was a painful experience, to say the least, and it definitely got me to realize that okay, I need to do things differently. And okay, I'm not going to like waste any much time talking about the different all those other details. Okay, so of course, as from the next semester, okay, there are certain things that I did differently, okay, that enabled me to to validate all my courses. All right, so one of the challenges obviously was the French language. Okay, the French language being like I've been studying in English for most of like, in fact, my studies have been entirely English before that, and getting to understand things in French was not easy. Yeah, so there was a challenge that I had to overcome, and for that I of course the solution was to get acquainted with French speaking students, those who studied in the French system, to get close to them and work with them in groups. Okay, because group work or studying in groups always helps to help, like it helps you to understand the things that are taught in class. Okay, you can ask questions, you can ask them questions, you solve together, and that way it sticks better. And another thing too is not to be scared to ask questions in class. Okay, not to be scared to ask questions in class. Okay, so if there's something that you don't understand, if there's any concept that you don't understand, it's important to to ask questions. Okay, no matter how stupid the questions may seem. Okay, it's true that your classmates may laugh at you, but okay, but you should know that that's part of the learning process. Okay, ask questions no matter how stupid they may seem. Okay, always ask questions. And what other challenge? What other challenge? Let me see.
Maybe we'll come back to that later.
Yeah, that's basically
Yeah,
that's the thing. Yeah, adapting to the new system. Yes.
Yeah, I think I like it when you said you have to you learned how to do things differently. Okay, so what had been working for you back then as an engineer, as a student in secondary school, didn't necessarily work for you as an engineering student. Okay, so
Exactly.
you should be keen to notice those things that you need to do different. Okay, and obviously engage in them if you want to go through. Uh, I will move to you, Bemsi. I will quote in a platform, okay, that we are boarding together. You mentioned how uh, top performing students who found themselves in a place where they are top performers, it's easy to suffer from depression, okay, and some even get suicidal, okay. There has been a story about that in Cameroon recently. Okay, what can you see? What can be done in that aspect, in that direction, to prevent depression or to deal with depression? Okay, and prevent obviously these suicidal thoughts.
I think that a huge part of it needs to be just the education of people. I think that one of the deficiencies of our educational system, I think education systems almost everywhere in the world, is that we're kind of trained, there's not a lot of training on how to deal with our emotions, or how to deal with disappointments and failures and things like that. And for people who are very used to being high achievers and who are used to being looked up to for their performance, when they get thrown into a new environment where that social validation is no longer there, or where they're not performing as well as they used to, it can get quite disorienting. So what I think is that we should find ways to educate people about living more holistic lives, teaching them that their self-worth is not just on their ability to have 19 on 20 in the mathematics test, right? That there are other things that are more important in life, and that even as much as performance is an important part of life, there are other things, other parts of their identities that they should pour their energies to as well, so that even if certain parts are not doing as well, they have other things that they can rely on. And so I think that that's on a more strategic level, that that's things that we can do. But on a more day-to-day basis, I would say organizations like Vestec or MIA or Open Dreams can, other organizations on the ground can be there to provide support for people who are facing that kind of disorientation, especially when they're in a new city, they're struggling with academics for the first time in their lives and things like that. That we need to find ways to provide support for them. We need to find ways to encourage them to find support. And so that's those are the two ideas that I have about helping people to cope with things like that.
Okay. I think what you said is really pertinent. Okay, there is more to engineering. Okay, there is more that you can do. It doesn't end with engineering. Okay, there is more value you have as an individual. Okay, so there is much that can be said in that topic. On that topic, but I prefer we move ahead right now. Okay, Mika. I want you to we've taken them right from the point where they want to be engineer. We've taken them to the point where they're actually engineering students. Okay, let's look a little bit at being an engineer proper. Okay, can you share with us one of your greatest achievements as an engineer? Okay, was it at work? Was it whatever thing that you? What is that thing that you think was your greatest achievement as an engineer?
Well, it's to be frank, it's really hard because maybe if I owned a patent to some discovery, I would say yes, I have a patent to this discovery, and it really sounds like that. But this is how I see it. I see it like every single day, and every single thing I did was a great achievement in itself. I really find it hard to classify, and I'll justify, I'll explain why I think so. I think so because um, whether when I was working for Perenco, I didn't focus on the fact that, well, my job was to head a project which was to improve on maybe production and maybe to improve on, let's say, my second project was literally a water treatment project, which was to meet legislative regulations in terms of the quality of water that could be discharged into the ocean. So when you stop looking at the fact that that's my project and you start looking at it like what is the difference that my contributions are making, then you realize that every single day at work or every single project that you follow to the end is a huge achievement. I could literally look at it like, well, because we did a great job as a team, we had to reduce, instances of pollutions. We literally preserved the ecosystem and biolife around where we work. That's how I see it. I see it like every single barrel that we got out of the ground in a very environmentally friendly manner was going to, provide sufficient energy to power the Cameroonian economy. That's how I see it, and it looks like it's a great achievement. If I come closer to my work, my dissertation, which was looking at, okay, we want to understand, it's a very novel area. Can we actually have bandages which are improving, which are changing shape with time? Some little contribution has been made towards science, and someone is going to take that to somewhere, and we may find ourselves in a point where you could literally get a wound, get healed without having a scar. So it's a huge achievement to me. And if I'm looking at my job, making a contribution towards, manufacturing millions of vials of vaccines that reach out to millions of people across hundreds of countries, it's a huge achievement. So
I will pick up from there. Mika, we have a question. We have a question coming in light from Wendy Siri. Wendy Siri says, "Hello, thanks for taking time to inspire us. Mika, you are a mechanical engineer and you work for GSK, which is a healthcare company. What can a mechanical engineer bring to the pharma industry?"
all right, so there is a lot of, that's the very first thing. So I'll answer that question. I'll start globally, then I narrow in a little to Wimbe's question, which is one fun thing, which is why I'm going to encourage those listening, especially the high schools who do not really know what they want to do, is engineering offers a certain level of flexibility. And as we said, as an engineer, you're out to provide solutions. Okay, you're a problem solver technically, and those problems are not really limited to anything. It could carry you to the energy, it could carry you to the pharma, it could carry you to health, it could carry you to just anywhere. Okay, so technically, what can an engineer do at a mechanical engineer, for instance? You have manufacturing, to get those things, to get those vaccines out there, you need machines. Those machines need to be designed. Those machines have to be chosen. Those things have to be done in a way that those vaccines will not harm you, but could help you get better. So there is a whole lot of things in choosing, those machines or designing those machines that meet those constraints and those expectations. And that's literally what I do. If you look at it from another angle, for instance, those machines have to be run, okay? So you're not really, I'm not in the biotechnological part. I'm not pretending to say I'm making the vaccines or stuff. That's for those in that area, but you come in as a support because those vaccines have to be produced in volumes, which are enormous. And those who make them probably don't know how to get that. And that's where an engineer literally comes into it. So I'll look at myself more as a support function to what they do there, which is, making vaccines. I think that should answer Wimbe's question.
Yeah, definitely. That answers the question. Okay. Since we are on questions, this question is actually directed to Dempsey. It says, Dempsey, you are a civil engineer and a research associate in the area of some disease. You do data science and machine learning. What advice can you give an engineering student who wants to be like you?
It depends. It depends on what you mean by "be like me." That's a very difficult question to answer, right? I didn't. I just followed my curiosity. That was a big thing. I just followed the things that at every step of my journey, I just thought about what it was that I was most curious about, or it was that I really cared about at the time, and I just followed it. And that meant that at some point, I shifted from working on typically civil engineering problems to problems of a different nature. And so if there was anything that I could say, it would probably be just to follow your curiosity. And it's kind of in line with what the former question was, which was about what a mechanical engineer has to do with healthcare. But I would say, do not put yourself in any box. The fact that you studied something in school does not mean that you cannot live your whole life. You cannot let the rest of your life be dictated by decisions that you made when you were 17, 18 years old. You cannot.
That's a good one.
You have a long life to live, and your interests will change. The things that you want to do will change, and just follow them as much as the opportunities and the constraints of life allow you to do so.
Okay, I think that's a great take-home message for our viewers this evening. Okay, I like the aspect. You can't You can't let the rest of your life be dictated by a decision that you made when you were 70 years. Okay. Nelson, since you are laughing so loud, I will get to you right now. Okay, permit me my, yes, it's just got low battery, so I have to switch. Okay, I just went from wireless to wire.
To where?
Okay, so Nelson, most of the schools in Cameroon are so theory inclined. Okay, and you know, an engineer is someone who does. Okay, so how can an engineering student get experience? How can he get practical? How can he get to touch things? Yes, Nelson.
All right. To get for an engineering student to get practical experience, one of the things the first and you know the easiest way is, well, let me not say easiest, the first and most feasible way is to get internships. Okay, try to get internships, not only because in Polytech, for example, it is required in from the fourth year, but you are not obliged to wait till the fourth year before you look for internships. Okay, you can start right from the first year. Okay, start looking for internships. It must not be paid, because the probability for you to get something paid at that time is very low. Okay, so try to look for volunteering opportunities, unpaid internships, for example, where you can work on you can practically collaborate with engineers, for example, maybe in the field that you are interested in. Okay, try to look for such opportunities, and for that case, I'll recommend to look for smaller structures. Okay, those smaller structures, that is where you can really get practical hands-on experience. You can get experience with the real world related to what in something related to what your interests are. And another thing too will be to seek for more knowledge. Okay, try to enroll in online courses. There are several free online courses. Okay, on websites such as edX, Coursera, MIT OpenCourseWare, that of Udemy, that offer free online courses where you can get a different perspective of how things are done. Things are done in different countries, for example, still related to your field. And the good thing with these courses are some of them are free, and there are even free ones that offer certificates. So all of that would definitely be a huge plus to your CV. Okay, so those are the two main suggestions that I have with respect to that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think this question is directed to, the next question I have is directed to Bemsi, the PhD guy. PhD.
Is it easy?
Yeah. The question is simple. Is it advisable for an engineer to get a PhD?
It depends on what your objectives are, right? It's like asking, is it advisable to go to engineering school? Like, is it advisable to do anything? There's no one size fits all thing. Is it advisable there's some engineers who have PhDs, some very good engineers who never went to school at all, right? So it depends really on what your objectives are, what it is that you want to do with the PhD, why, I need a bit more context on the person asking that question to be able to give like a reasonable answer. Mm-hmm. I did a PhD because I had my own reasons for wanting to do one, and they may not be the same reasons another person has. They may not be the same things that another person wants to have out of life. So I just need a bit more context to say whether or not.
Yeah, so it's very much contextual. Maybe you want to do a PhD because you love those ropes and those hats, those professors move around with, and that's a reason. So people actually.
Yeah, so it actually just depends on what the person wants, and maybe a PhD is the best route to achieve those objectives. Maybe just no schooling at all is the best way to do it. So you
Yeah.
never really, you can't really tell. Yeah.
Okay, I think that answers enough. And any person that has that question, feel free to contact the stake. Okay, and give your context. And BEMC is available always to answer those questions. Of
Mhm.
course, through the stake, you won't get to him directly. You don't get to PhD holders like that.
I'm
No,
telling you.
no, it's not.
You need some protocol, and BestTech will provide that protocol for you. Anyway, that was just for fun. Okay, I think this question, the next question I'm going to ask, we will answer it from two perspectives. We have Mika, who did some more engineering in the UK system. Okay, let's call it the EU system. Okay, and we have Nelson, who did engineering. Okay, in the US system. Okay, and I think this question we will get both perspectives from them. So, Mika, what does it take to study engineering in the UK? Okay, and if possible, maybe you extend to Europe, to the whole of Europe, and tell us more about it.
I- I'm still trying to get my head around the question in terms of what does it take.
Yeah.
Well, I think it takes the same thing it was gonna take anyone in Cameroon. I don't particularly think the requirements for studying engineering in the UK, to be precise, is any different from anywhere else in the world, or whether in Europe, I would say, or Cameroon. Maybe if it's about the approach to
Okay.
engineering in the UK,
Yeah.
then I would say yes, there are some differences. And um, I would say the difference in approach is just a result of a difference, it's just evidence of the endowment that the universities in the UK have as opposed to those in Cameroon, for instance. So if you have more endowment, it means you could literally have access to more finance, more resources for the students, and so on and so forth. And that's really, that's to me, that's what makes studying maybe engineering in the UK or other European countries a little bit different from Cameroon. If there is one thing I would say, it's that there was nothing that I was asked to do that they didn't ensure that I had the resources to do them. So if I'm asked to run a simulation, it's because the university knows that I can get whichever software I need for that and download a student version and get a license for it, or there is at least some computer laboratory that has that software installed for me to use. If I have to go to the lab, things are there. If I'm running a project, there is finances for me to buy uh, yeah, the basic things that
Maybe I add some more light and permit you approach the question from a different perspective. Okay.
okay,
I'm a Cameroonian now. Okay.
sure,
I want to study engineering in the UK. How do
okay,
I prepare for that?
okay, all right, okay. So I'll take it from enrollment, what it takes for you to enroll into an engineering
Yes,
program.
yes, yes. That would be a better way to put it.
All right. So as opposed to Cameroon, where majority of recruitments or enrollments are done through competitive entrance examinations, for the UK particularly, you would have to apply to the school individually. So if you were at ordinary, at advanced level, and you're going in for an undergraduate engineering program, they have what they call the UCSA, UCSA, something like that. It's just an organization that helps students to apply to multiple schools at the same time. But
Okay.
at postgraduate level, I think there is an equivalence in the US, which Achelengwa will talk about. But at postgraduate level, you have to apply to each individual school on its own. The difference as opposed to Cameroon is be ready to take standardized tests. So given that Cameroon is really not considered an English-speaking country, you need to show proficiency in English language. Many universities will accept either the TOEFL or the IELTS test. Um, for some highly ranked universities. So I'm thinking of Oxford, I'm thinking of Cambridge, Imperial College London. You may have to take the GRE, which is really more of an American thing. So I want to think it's also because they receive a whole lot of very, very competitive applicants. And so it also serves as a way to kind of filter out applicants already. So be ready to take the graduate record examination, which is more like a computer-based, computer adaptive online test, which can be taken. So anyone who is interested can get more information on the website ets.org, examinationtestingservice.org. So to get more information. So if you're applying, get your letters of recommendation ready, get your transcripts and your certificates ready, get your standardized test ready, get your language proficiency test ready, and visit the websites of the schools for any specific and extra material that you need.
Okay, I think Achalengo will give us the US perspective of things.
All right. In the US, it's quite similar. Okay. Obviously there is an online application that you have to start, but then it is not just about the online application. That online application in itself it's very easy. What the main challenge about it is the different components of the online application that you need to complete to complement it. And those components include things like your standardized tests, okay, which are definite, which they consider even more than your certificates, because the truth is that Cameroon is not really it's not really accredited as far as education is concerned. It's not really recognized. It's not they don't recognize it that much. Okay, it does not have a high rating for here in the US. Okay, so it's through those standardized tests that they really see how smart you are. And the standardized tests, they vary depending on whether it's for the graduate level or for undergraduate studies. For the undergraduates, it's generally the SATs, and you also need to take the TOEFL or IELTS, okay, for English proficiency, okay, to show that you are able to study in English. Okay, those are the tests that you need to take. And I know for IELTS, generally the minimum score required is 6.5. Okay, normally the band scores range from 1 to 9. I know that that's 6.5 is generally what is generally the minimum requirement in most schools. That's if you choose to take the IELTS. Then for the graduate level, you have the GRE or GMAT. GMAT is for MBAs, generally for those ones do MBAs. And you also have IELTS and TOEFL. IELTS or TOEFL. Okay, you can choose which any of the two are accepted. And another very important component is your AC. Okay, what is called the personal statement. Okay, in fact, I think that is, if I have to give it a percentage, it should be like, let's say 50%. It counts like for 50%, because that is true that is true the personal statement that you convince the admission committee or admission board of why they should give you a place. Okay, it's true that you have to be able to convince them of why you should be given the place. Okay, and one very important thing about that is you shouldn't focus on academics. Okay, focus on community impact. How much have you impacted people? Okay, because what they are interested in here is someone who will be able. Okay, they want to give a place to someone who will be able to create impact in future. Okay, so you should be able to show how well you've impacted, your community, maybe through volunteering, for example, or maybe through it could be an initiative that you've started. Maybe you're part of an organization. Okay, your leadership in that organization. So things like that are those are the kind of things I'd like to see in your personal statement. And also given how given there's so much delays, in getting documents in Cameroon, it would be advisable to get things like your transcripts, your certificates, letters of recommendation. It's good to ask them well in advance. Okay, it's good to get them well in advance so that you don't lack them when the deadline for submitting your application is approaching. It's good to get all those things set well in advance. And of course, after that, you also have to get your passport. You also have to, and okay, that's when you get admitted. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, but essentially, you need to try to prepare things like your transcript, certificates, and letters of recommendations well in advance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
so
I think
basically it.
I think the message behind it is that you should prepare for it well ahead of time. Okay.
Yes.
The deadline is not going to be shifted for you.
Yes.
The deadline is not going to be pushed to a later date because Derek did not get to prepare his documents. Derek's professor did not sign that recommendation later. Okay. It's something. Advice. What I do is that I had this whole Excel sheet where I had those opportunities I was targeting. Okay, and I placed the requirements for those things. Okay, and I try to I put the deadline so that I know what I'm working towards. Okay, I try to identify the programs I'm interested in, what I need as documents for this program, the deadlines for this program. Okay, and I start doing that well ahead of time. And I think Bestech has something similar in one of their videos. They're going to, I think Bestech will post the link to the Google Drive so that if you want to look into those programs that launch every year, okay, you can start preparing and knowing those documents that you need. Okay, Dempsey, you've been silent for a while. I would like to get back to you. I just had a quick glance on your LinkedIn account. I saw you've been an independent consultant for Udacity, and you've also done a verified nano degree program with Udacity, and also you've had a license from Code Academy. Okay, so is that one of the things you would advise, an engineering student to get those online verified certificates? Is it a good thing to do as an engineering student?
Again, it falls back to the same kind of answer that I gave before, right? It depends on what it is that you want. I did those certifications at the time because I was quite curious about data science, machine learning, and things like that. And so, yeah, if you're curious about certain things, you should get the knowledge. I mean, it's available on Udacity, Coursera, edX, and all those websites. So, yeah, I do not know how useful they are in getting employment. For example, okay. I'm not. It will probably depend on where you are, but depending, I would say I did it because I was interested in what the course material, and there were things that I wanted to know. So, yeah, if your curiosity leads you there, why not?
Okay, I think it falls in the light of you identifying those things that you are interested in, and you prepare yourself in that aspect. And for you, I think it was data science, and you had to go into Code Academy to get some data science with Python background, and from there you move to Udacity to get some data science background as well. So it's, if you are listening to us, you have a particular topic of interest, okay, and you might not be getting it from school. And even if you're getting it from school, it's always advisable to go deeper. Okay. Once you go deeper, you have some deeper connections. Okay. It's a deep call it onto deep. Once you go deep, you have some deep revelations that will fall on you. So you might want to get more knowledge in that direction. So I think that answers the question from Wimbe Cyril again, saying I'm an engineering student and a very science-focused student. Are there online courses you can advise me to take so that I can be more competitive in the future? I think you just answered the question, Dempsey. I'll get back to you. Yes, Mika, if you have something to add.
Yeah, so I'm just going to add about the whole course thing, because when you look at it, well, critically, let me talk for, say engineers who graduate from the National Advanced School of Engineering, I think you graduate, and most of them over a very short period of time are called to lead maybe small teams or to supervise other people and stuff. In addition to some of the courses that we've encouraged people to take, whether online or extra courses outside their normal program to complement, I think being able to build other skills is equally as important as the technical skills. So I would want to tell maybe those listening to us, especially young engineering students or those who are looking to get into that area, that it doesn't just suffice for you to do the technical or the hard technical stuff. Because when you get to the field or in industry, you realize that there are software and there are kind of systems in place to help you do the very complicated stuff. So you literally just learn it to be capable of knowing whether what the software did or the output you're receiving literally makes sense. And most of what you may be called, in addition to technical, will be to lead people, will be to communicate with stakeholders, will be to maybe, evaluate stuff, do reports for your superiors and all those things. So you realize that your communication skills, your leadership skills, your people management skills are things which are very critical for the job market today. To share a personal experience, I would say all the interviews I've had to take, even for engineering roles, have been 20% talking about my technical skills. Most of them have focused on things which have nothing to do with engineering, more about my experience, a time I've led people, a time I've failed, a time I've maybe convinced someone to do something, preparing reports, making a presentation, and how well I communicate. So these are skills that I would advise every young person, irrespective of your field or your discipline, to build them and to do that with a lot of attention. Yeah, just that addendum.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think that was a great input you just gave here, and we shouldn't have ended this program without mentioning such a thing. Okay. So the next question, I will get back to Bemsi for this. It says, what gaps have you identified? Have you identified any gaps in the CAME engineering program relative to the programs out there? And how can engineering students, what can engineering students do to mitigate those gaps and compete with on a global standard?
I'd say that the gaps that I've identified are not really gaps in theory. It's more. There's been a question about this already. Gaps in, they know a lot of things about how all the systems work, but they've never really used those systems before. And so I think that a huge component of the things that people are lacking is just practical experience, using certain kinds of technology, or, people are not at the cutting edge. And so a lot of the things that I would say are gaps really they're not really gaps in the theory. It's not like people who are trained in Cameroon do not know the theory of whatever engineering discipline that they're working with. But it's more, they do not have a lot of exposure as to they don't have a lot of practical experience. And also that they don't have a lot of exposure as to the different things that you could do with the knowledge that you have. The best way for us to fix that would be finding ways to get people as much practical experience as possible while they're in school. That's easier to do if you're, say, a computer scientist, for example, because you don't really need, there's not a lot of hardware, you don't need you don't need a lab, for example, or it's easier for you to get practical experience as a computer scientist than as a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer, because, certain kinds of experience you need to work in certain places. And so, it's a very difficult question to answer about how you can ensure that certain kinds of engineers get the kinds of experience that you want them to get. But as far as exposure is concerned, I would think events like this, where we all exchange our ideas, we talk about how we got, what it is that we're working on, just so that the people who are listening have a much clearer ideas about what other people are doing, what is possible, and the different things that they can do with the knowledge that they have. And so I would say, as far as exposure is concerned, organizing events like this, where you have people sharing their experience, sharing their knowledge, I think that that's already a step in the right direction.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's something, is an advice I would take if I was an engineering student. Uh, back there I wouldn't really attend such programs. I'll be like, it's better off studying, reading my books and all of that. Okay, but I think we are here right now to tell those people seated and watching us in the comfort of their beds. Okay, don't prioritize your book too much out of you prefer your book too much from these programs. Okay, these are those moments where you get to live the lives of other people. Okay, you get to understand certain things they've been through, and prevent yourself from making some mistakes. Okay, so it's been a great moment of exchange. Okay, we've taken you basically from an advanced level student, the subjects that you need to prepare to write at the advanced level to be able to get into an engineering school in Cameroon. Okay, and we were able to tell you not to dream only in Cameroon. Okay, think beyond. Your dreams are valid even if it is out of Cameroon. Okay, and we took you even through engineering school, the experiences that we had back there in engineering school, and the experiences that we have right now as working and doing different things as engineers. Okay, so it's been a lot of insight, it's been a lot of messages, it's been a lot of teachings. Okay, and I want to believe that if you are a watcher, a viewer right now, okay, you have some things that you've definitely taken back. Okay, but before we end, okay, I want to ask our speakers to give us some last words. Okay, anything that you would like, if there was one thing that our viewers should take home today, okay, what is that thing that you would like to tell them? So I will start from Bemsi.
These kinds of questions are usually very difficult, right? Thinking about,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like, what's the one thing? I would say, I basically say just follow your curiosity. I think I've already said this, that there are many interesting problems to be solved, both on the global stage and also just locally, right? And there's a lot of talent, I think, in Cameroon, and a huge part of, I think, a huge limitation is that a lot of people think that because I studied civil engineering in school, then I'm a civil engineer, and that becomes a part of your identity. But I would say, follow your curiosity. I've already made this statement before, but that don't let decisions that you made in the past confine you. Don't put yourself in boxes. And so, if there are problems that you genuinely want to solve, you should go out there, get the knowledge and the experience that you need, and work on those problems. And yeah, I think that's probably the only thing that comes to mind when at the moment.
Okay, so Mika, if there is that thing that you think you can add to this discussion, or maybe some last words, what would that be?
I think I would say that studying whichever course you decide to take, and more especially engineering, is a very fascinating experience. Um, I think just like Dr. To, if I were to get back to high school, I think I'll still do engineering. Probably I'll just add more of economics to whichever engineering discipline I take. But I would want to advise that while trying to acquire the technical skills and to build yourself in those areas, no, it doesn't just end with that. There are more important things in life. Try to strike a balance between your professional or your academic stuff and something that you're very passionate about, or something which really something you could do without pay, I would say. um, Something you can look back to and feel like, okay, life has not just been about chasing individual dreams, but it's been about that, and about making a contribution in another person's life. I think that's what I would ask everyone to take home from this discussion.
Thank you, Mika. And Nelson, I will end with you. What thing do you have to add to this discussion?
All right. I'll say I'll say three things. Okay. The first one, soft skills. Okay. As an engineer, you should not focus only on technical skills. Focus on acquiring soft skills such as leadership, good communication, teamwork, and coaching and all of that, because that will enable you to be a well-rounded professional. Okay, and those skills are definitely more required, these days. And secondly, there is more to school. Okay, don't just be focused on on your academics. Try to live a little. And the third point, in line with that second point, is that in life, okay, you will definitely experience failures. Okay, but don't see those failures as blockages. Okay, but rather as an added advantage. Okay, you should learn from your failures. Okay, as Albert Einstein said, success is failure in progress. Okay, so to succeed, okay, you will definitely go through failures. Okay, so see those failures as a stepping stone to go higher.
Okay, thank you very much. And as an engineer also, okay, my last words to you is that you should subscribe. Okay, subscribe. You definitely want to have great content coming to your room, your parlor, or wherever you're watching us. Okay, so as an engineer, I'm calling you to subscribe. As an engineer, I'm asking you to like. As an engineer, I'm calling you to share, and obviously you can drop your questions and your comments, and Bestech will always get back to you to answer your questions. Okay, so it was great having you, Bemsi. It was great having you, Micah, and it was great having you, Nelson, on this platform today. And I've learned so much from you. Okay, and there is much that I've taken home right now. Okay, so I guess we've come to the end of our program. Okay, and I hope that in some days or months ahead, we'll have such a platform to listen to success stories, maybe from this talk or from any other thing that Bestech is doing. Okay, so have a great evening wherever you are, and make sure you connect each time we have something to share with you. Okay, and you'll be hearing much from us in the days ahead. So, bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Let's just wait for a couple of minutes because there is some lag for this last part to go through. Yeah. Meanwhile, we can be gisting.
Stop the live. That's what I was asking. I said, Ganyu,
present.
Let me make him go and see this man. Siri, even when no,
Series